Hi, I'm Julie Lythcott-Haims. I'm known for my frankness and my bluntness in my opinions. So I'm here to help you think about how to be successful at supporting your offspring in heading off to college, which is amazing. I've written How to Raise an Adult on the Harm of Helicopter Parenting, calling myself one as I write this, because I am one. A lot of empathy if you are too. And I wrote Your Turn, How to Be an Adult for Young Adults Struggling with Adulting. I'm also a former dean at Stanford, where my job was to care about young adults and support them, which I did. And I have two young adults in my life, my son, who's 22, and my daughter, who's 20. So I'm here wearing all of those hats with tremendous compassion for you as you face this incredible, scary, wonderful, inevitable transition, okay? My advice is innumerable, but it boils down to three things in the time we have available. And they all begin with C. They are communication, curfew, and conundrums. I hope those C's are in the right direction. I don't know if the video is going to switch. You know what I'm trying to do. Communication. I would say to my kid, hey kid, when you get off to college, we are not going to be all up in your business, constantly checking in and calling. We want to respect that you are an adult now. You are going to have new friends and schoolwork, and you might even be in a new time zone. You're going to have all kinds of things going on. We don't want to show up and pop up and interfere with all of that. We are still here for you and always will be. But let's set a communication plan of a phone call by Zoom or FaceTime once a week so we can see your face and you can see our face and maybe even see your little siblings and your pets and grandma and so on. Okay, once a week, y'all, is a great strategy for regular communication. Outside of that, let them dictate how often they're going to text you or call you. Okay, let them take the lead. Give them their space. I know you're going to be missing them. You're going to be longing to talk with them and just check in. But remember, they're in college now and they need a little bit more distance, a little bit more space to start to really develop that new life away from home. Okay, that's communication. The second C, curfews. My kids had a 1 a.m. curfew by the time they were seniors in high school. I knew that I was not going to keep track of when they were home and not in college because I'm not the type of person to GPS track my kid. I'm not that person. I don't want you to be either, okay? They could be in the Marines or in the Army. You wouldn't know where they are, okay? They're just in college now, which is a much safer environment. You all need to practice not knowing everything at all times. So I would say, hey kid, I'm not gonna know when you come in on a Friday night or Saturday night in college. I need to practice that now. So you go do what you need to do. I trust you're using good judgment. I will wake up the next morning and discover you're here, home and fine. Please do text me if you get into any trouble. Okay, I will always answer that phone call from you. All right. I urge you to practice this now before they get wherever they're going and you flip out because you're worried. I get it. I've been there. But we need to give them the opportunity to be adults who use good judgment and have a little bit of flexibility and freedom. And we don't have to know everything about everything going on in their lives. And number 3, conundrums. I would say this: 95% of the stuff they're going to text you about in college does not require your involvement. So resist the urge to swoop in and solve, and instead empathize and empower. This is what that looks like when they text you. I got a flat tire. I don't like my roommate. My professor is mean. I want you to, instead of swooping in and solving, I want you to empathize and empower. Empathy sounds like this: oh no, are you okay? Oh, I'm so sorry, honey. That must be hard. Oh, that sounds frustrating. Do you want to talk? That's empathy. Empower is, after that part has happened, how do you think you're going to handle this, honey? Or text me when you've handled it just so I know that everything's fine. You're signaling, hey kid, I think you can. You're signaling, that's not my problem. It's yours and I believe in you. You can. That's what's missing in a lot of modern American childhood. It's your opportunity now that they're in college to say, I love you and let me know when you've taken care of it, or I believe in you. Good luck, honey. That's empathy. That's empowerment. That helps your young adult offspring thrive. I know you want to swoop in. Believe me, I've been there. Okay, you might have to do the empathy and then put the phone down and walk into the other room, because if you don't put that phone down, because they're going to say, what do you mean? I need you to handle. You'll be like, I'm sorry, I'm busy. You might have to say, hi, honey, in the middle of something. I love you so much. Good luck with that. That's empathy and empowerment right there. Good luck. Speaking of luck, good luck to you. You've got this. If you feel like following me, I'm J. Lythcott-Haims, wherever social media is found, and Julie Lythcott-Haims on my website. I'm here for you. We're all in this together. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Audrey Monke, and I'm excited to share with you just a little tip that I think is very helpful for those of you who are sending kids off to college for the first time. In addition to being a summer camp director, I'm also the mother of 5 young adults. So I've gone through the process of having my kids leave home and move far away to go to college. And it's challenging as a parent. It's a hard thing. And so one thing to do is just to really acknowledge that ambivalence that you might have about your child leaving to go to college. The other thing that's really important and something that we do here at camp is to normalize the homesickness that really could happen and does happen sometimes with kids who aren't expecting it when they go away from home for the first time. So especially if your children haven't had a lot of experience living away from you for an extended period of time, it could be challenging being at college in a new environment without people they know well. So it's important before they leave to just chat with them about that and let them know that it's normal to feel some of that separation, anxiety, and homesickness when you're in a new place like college. But I would just advise that when they do call you and they're feeling sad or they're having roommate problems or frustrations about a class, to be a listening ear. Kids do tend to call us more when they're having a bad day than when they're having a good day. Just like at camp, sometimes kids write the letter when they're feeling down and not when they're in the middle of having a lot of fun. So just remember that you may not be getting the whole picture when your college student calls you and they're feeling sad or they're saying they want to come home. Just encourage them to work through those feelings and really express a lot of confidence in them and their ability of really pushing forward and getting through the experience. Because I know from camp, even kids who really felt extreme homesickness in the early days of camp feel really proud of themselves for successfully completing their camp session. So it's a really great feeling to help our kids, encourage them, and express confidence in their ability to be independent from us. And while sometimes we might wish that our kids would just stay home with us forever and we wouldn't have to go through the discomfort of being away from each other, just remember that this is an important step in your child's growth into young adulthood. So that's a little bit of advice from a camp director who's also sent many kids off to college, and I hope it's helpful for you. Thanks for listening.
Hi, I'm Katherine Reynolds Lewis, certified parent educator, journalist, and author of The Good News About Bad Behavior, Why Kids Are Less Disciplined Than Ever, and What to Do About It. And I'm here today with 3 pieces of advice for all the parents out there sending their children off to college in this truly unusual year in a very unusual series of years. And I've been there with my partner, Brian. I have 3 children, and the first one is fully launched. So I remember that college send off. And the second one is going to go next year, if all goes according to plan. So I have 3 pieces of advice for you. Number 1 is trust yourself. You have spent 18 years pouring your heart and soul into your child. You have shown them your values, your work ethic, how you interact with people, how you live an honorable life, and they've got it. You can trust that they've soaked it in and there's a lot more under the surface that they're going to be able to draw on in those difficult moments when the college transition is upon them. And they're going to make mistakes. That's the one thing we know about all humans is we make mistakes, we mess up. And the key, as I said to our first child when she went off to college, is trying not to make them mistakes that haunt you for life, right? No felony conviction, no unintended pregnancy, no lifelong management of an STI. But when she went off to college, I said, go ahead and sleep with the wrong men. And truly, I meant it because we all make bad choices when we're figuring out adulthood. And it's no shame to recognize that you chose the wrong person and then to choose again. And it's that journey, that path of making your own decisions, messing up, oversleeping on classes, forgetting an assignment, making the wrong friendships, maybe overindulging in substances. Those mistakes help point us to our true destination. And that's true for our children as well. So this is the moment to hold your breath, breath, cross your fingers, and trust that the work you've done for the past 18 years is going to pay off. Number 2 is set up a regular communication schedule with your child. Depending on how close you are and what they're willing to agree to, that could be a weekly phone call. It could be 3 times weekly texts, something where you know that all you have to do is hold on another 2 or 3 or 5 or 7 days, and you will connect with your child. So you're not going to be pestering them and texting them and wondering where they are, stalking them on Life 360, because you have that upcoming communication opportunity. This will also help you because your children will call you when things are in crisis. They overslept, they pissed off a professor, they're having a fight with their new best friend, and the world is crumbling. And you coach them through that, you're their sounding board, and hang up the phone. And then you may not hear from them again. And you're imagining, right? Things are a disaster and the crisis that they're in is continuing, but more likely they've just gotten what they needed, that support, that touchstone with their parent, and they've actually figured it out. So again, if you know that you have that communication opportunity, you'll be able to have the weekly phone call and hear, oh, I guess the crisis was gone the next day. The third piece of advice is to get a hobby, because this fall is going to be hard, especially with everything that's happening in the public health situation and the news. It's a time of a lot of uncertainty and stress. And if you're just at home wondering what your kid's up to at college, you will drive yourself a little bit wacko. And if you have a new hobby, a new group of friends, some new pursuit or challenge that you've set yourself, it will help to fill your hours so that you're not waiting by the phone or texting incessantly or filling your mind with busy thoughts of what might be happening. And it's also just a great time to recognize this is a new chapter in your life. One, fewer children at home, maybe it's an empty nest, and you get to rediscover what makes you thrive and what really engages you in some new pursuit or hobby or group of friends that really may fill you up in this next chapter. So enjoy the process. It's okay to cry. Try not to dump it on your kids, and congratulations on reaching this point. Thanks again for listening. A huge thanks to my friend Tina Payne Bryson for organizing this videos. And again, I'm Katherine Reynolds Lewis, really happy to share this moment of transition with you.
Hi, this is Madeline Levine, and I wanted to say a few words about the challenge of sending kids to college right now. It's always challenging when you send your kids to college. I sent 3, I know. But it's particularly challenging right now given our concerns about COVID, safety, what the schools are doing, etc. So you're going to find it stressful, and your kids will find it stressful. And, I'm the person who's always said, hang back a little bit, let your kids figure it out. And I still think that's good advice in general. My book, Ready or Not, came out 2 weeks before COVID lockdown. And we delayed the paperback till now, assuming that COVID would be all taken care of, and it's not. And the advice in Ready or Not is really about something I call accumulated disability, which is if you keep doing stuff for your kids that they can actually do for themselves, you're limiting their opportunities to develop coping skills and resilience, etc. And I think that's accurate, but I do think that there's an attitude now that would be particularly helpful, and that's an attitude of curiosity. So rather than running in to solve issues, and there are going to be issues, I think what we have to think about is how do you approach your kid who calls and says, I'm really nervous, somebody in the next dorm tested positive, what do I do? And while it will be extremely tempting to say, come home now, I think you have to think of that as an opportunity to help your kid begin to think about how one processes difficulty. So instead of jumping in with the come home now, I think it's time to get curious and ask questions like, what is the school doing and what are you doing? And what else can you do? And a month from now, what will things look like? Because one of the things young adults are not great at is projecting down the line a little bit. Everything tends to be in the moment. So I think there will be times where you will have to sort of pull the trigger on some decision or another. But basically, the job under extremely stressful times is sort of a heightened, can I help you figure out a way to use and develop your own skills for figuring out difficulty? And I think that approach towards your kids in college is probably a good one to have right now. It will be challenging, and I wish you the best of luck with it.
Okay, so this is the moment we've been waiting for. Your kid is going to college. You're so excited. They're so excited. Or maybe there's a little bit of nervousness and concern. And given that there's a global pandemic still going on, it would be understandable if this was an extra stressful transition for your family. It's a good idea to make a plan for what kind of communication is going to happen. There may be unexpected things that change that plan, but it's good to start with at least some kind of plan. So if you would like to be hearing from your kid in college, once a week, maybe let them know and see if they are willing to agree to that and make a plan for that time. Please do not stalk them on social media or text them all the time to see how they're doing. And if they're texting you constantly, it might be a good idea to make a plan where at least some of the time you're too busy to respond right away, because they may be able to solve the problems that they're texting about or whatever's going on their own. So the phone is an incredible communication tool, but especially after all this time together during the pandemic, it's really important that we also make sure that we think about what our communication plans and boundaries are going to be, and that the phone doesn't become a digital tether or a torture device for you to stare at and wonder how they're doing. Definitely try to come up with some plans to be busy and not super accessible all the time. And good luck with this incredible transition, and may it be a great start for a wonderful new time in your family and in your relationship for both of you.
Hi, I'm Jess Lahey. I'm the author of The Gift of Failure and The Addiction Inoculation, Raising Healthy Kids in a Culture of Dependence. And that's what I'm here to talk about today, because congratulations, you have a college student. And Animal House, right? That's what I thought. I have a 22-year-old, and when they were ready to go off to college, I thought, oh my gosh, this is it. My kid's going off to Animal House. Not so. The media's representations of what happens at college is actually not like what really happens at college. So let me give you some useful information that you can share with your kid, and that can help them moderate their use, because it turns out that when we have a really clear idea of what's actually happening and how many people around us are drinking and using substances, then we are going to be more likely to adhere to the norm and not the perceived norm, which tends to be higher than the actual norm. Only 44% of students drink in college. Now, those 44 students statistically drink 5 drinks a week on average. However, that is deceptive. We have to break that down. So it turns out that a very slim margin of those, a very slim group of those 44% actually drink most of the alcohol consumed on campus. So the heaviest drinkers actually consume 68% of all of the alcohol consumed on campus, and the heaviest binge drinkers, those who drink a lot of drinks in one sitting, those drinkers are actually consuming 72% of all the alcohol consumed at college. Who are these heaviest drinkers, right? Because we want to help our kids stay safe and hopefully not be in those categories. Well, if you have a white male, you're already most of the way there, because the heaviest drinkers on campus tend to be white males under the age of 23. Okay. White males under the age of 23 who belong to the Greek system. The Greek system, unfortunately, 4 out of 5 students in the Greek system binge drink. And what's interesting about that is that the Greek presidents actually are the heaviest drinkers among the drinkers in the Greek system. On top of that, student athletes, while some aspects of sports can be really preventative, student athletes are actually 29% of those student athletes drink. But within the categories of the heaviest contact sports. Actually, the heaviest contact sports tend to have the most drinking, and that would be football, hockey, wrestling, and lacrosse. So if your kid falls into any of these categories, you might want to have some conversations with them about the fact that this is a problem within those areas. And if your kid wants to live in the Greek system, having a conversation like, well, why? What is it you hope to get out of living in the Greek system? And if it's things like social contacts and friends and blah, 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 that's great. But they do need to understand that 4 out of 5 students in the Greek system drink as binge drinkers, and that binge drinkers are a lot more likely to fail classes, a lot more likely to have academic problems, a lot more likely to commit vandalism, a lot more likely to be imprisoned. There's all kinds of problems when you're a binge drinker. So just think about that. 56% of students don't binge drink on campus, don't binge drink. So that means, what's interesting about this that means that the non-binge drinkers, those 56% of college students, drink only 9% of the alcohol consumed on campus. That's a really small amount. Who are those non-binge drinkers? They're most likely to be African-American, and specifically African-American females, Asians, people who are older students, students who are involved in activities, students who are involved in things like music and art and stuff like that, and people who volunteer. They are also students who are there as a first-generation college student and students on scholarships, because essentially it's students who have more to lose. Kids who are there on a scholarship can't afford to miss classes, can't afford to be hungover on a Friday morning and miss their classes. So if your student falls into those categories, then they are already primed to be less likely to drink in college and less likely to have problems that can stem from drinking. Thank you so much for joining me on this. If you want to know more, you can go to jessicalahey.com, and there's more information there about preventing substance use in kids. Good luck.
If you've got a kid who's heading off to college for the first time, there's a solid chance that they might be a little anxious about that transition. And if we're honest with ourselves, you might be anxious yourself. But let me offer this advice. Be thoughtful, even restrained, in how you check in to make sure that everything's going okay. We have a tendency when kids are anxious to want to reassure them that everything's going to be just fine. But you don't have a tot anymore, you have a teenager. And part of making that transition out of your house into college and the rest of their lives is their having the ability to soothe themselves. I remember when my son first started college, I missed him enormously, and I'm driving away in tears and thinking, gosh, how much I love this guy. And I think maybe I should check in later to make sure that everything's okay. But when I was honest with myself, I had to reflect on the fact that I was probably doing this as much to make me feel better as to make him feel better. This was his first day of college, and he was meeting friends and his roommate and figuring out who people were. And yeah, was he probably a little homesick? Might have been, don't really know. But that was his job to figure out how to make that transition, how to handle some of the hard feelings of departures and new adventures. So if you've got a kid going off to college, give them a hug, give them all the love, give them reassurance that it's going to be great. And if you need to check in, make a plan to do that. Hey, would it be cool if I touch base with you in a couple days? Or better yet, can you plan to give us a call in a couple days and let us know that everything's going great? It's their adventure. We want to be with them. We want to be available to them, but we want to be a resource that they come to rather than being the ones that keep checking in over and over to make sure that everything's just okay. Because it's our patience and our sitting back and being here but not rushing in that is a very powerful message of letting them know that we believe it's all going to be just great.
Hi, I'm Payne Bryson. I am the mom to 3 boys, 2 of whom are college age, one starting his college career and the other in his senior year. So if you're a parent of a college student, whether they're just starting or you're several years in, a couple of ideas for you. What I would say is there are 3 things you don't want to do. You don't want to minimize, criticize, or mobilize. And 2 things you do want to do are empathize and authorize. So let me go through each of those. We don't want to minimize how they feel. So let me start with an example. Let's say your college student calls you, and they will, stressed out about something, for sure. They will call you or text you or whatever way of communication, they will find you. And they might, let me just give a really specific example. I've stayed up all night. I'm exhausted. I have a test coming up in 4 hours. I don't know what to do. I'm so tired. I can't even think straight. I don't know if I should sleep. I don't know if I should study, and I have to do well in this class. It's so stressful. Okay, so your kid has just dumped all their stress on you in that moment. You don't want to minimize by saying, look, it's just college stress. I mean, it's what everybody goes through. Like, figure it out. I don't know why you're making a big deal about this. So when we minimize, it basically communicates to them, you're alone with your struggles and you're making too big of a deal, which basically tells them, don't be in tune with your feelings. Don't feel what you're feeling, which never works when you tell someone never not to feel what they're feeling, or that what they're feeling is ridiculous. Okay, that doesn't work. The second thing you don't want to do is criticize. Why in the heck did you wait until the very last minute to study? Why were you up all night? That's so dumb. You know how hard it is to do well in your test when you haven't had sleep. When we criticize our kids, not only does that amplify their distress instead of soothing their distress, but it also communicates to them a feeling that will make them less likely to want to share with you in the future. When we criticize, keep in mind the brain and the nervous system are an association machine. So if they've shared something with you and you respond in a way that makes them feel bad about themselves, they feel criticized, you are less likely to have them share with you in the future. So we certainly don't want to criticize. Certainly they are learning that lesson right then anyway by how stressed they are. And you can always, address that later. But in the moment, minimizing and criticizing are not helpful, nor is mobilizing. And what I mean by that is you say to your child, you mobilize into action to rescue your child. Okay, send me your notes. I will make flashcards and, I'll help you study. And then you can sleep for an hour. And so basically you mobilize yourself to rescue and fix. What that actually does is communicates to our child, I don't trust that you can handle this. You are not a problem solver that can figure this out. You need me. And instead, we want to give our kids the competence and confidence to be problem solvers, to have a sense of agency in their world that they can solve what comes up. So what we want to do instead of minimizing, criticizing, and mobilizing is empathize and authorize. So we start with empathy. Wow, that's so stressful. Oh my gosh, that's so much on you all at once. Oh, that's just a lot. So basically, you're just offering some connection and some empathy so that they feel understood. They feel like you get them, you get what they're going through. Okay. Simple connection and empathy. You can just really say, wow, you're so tired. Oh, it's so hard to think straight, isn't it, sweetie? Oh, I'm so sorry. It's so stressful for you. So you can empathize without mobilizing. That doesn't mean you need to fix. Remember that the thing that makes the biggest difference for them is for you to walk with them through it by saying, I get it, I'm here. But that doesn't mean you're fixing or overfunctioning. Which leads us to the final one that's a yes, do, which is authorize. You want to authorize them to be problem solvers. You want to empower them, authorize them to be the authors of their own story. So you might say like, oh gosh, that's so stressful. That's a lot all at once. It's so hard, especially when you haven't had a good night's sleep. Oh, that's a lot. Oh my gosh. So what are you going to do? What's your plan? How are you going to divide up the last remaining time you have left? So you're really authorizing them to be their own expert, to be their own problem solver, entrusting them that they can figure it out. So don't minimize, criticize, or mobilize. Instead, empathize and authorize them to be the amazing adults and problem solvers that they are.